Study number 3. I call this almost there. We're looking at the Babylon, how that it's almost control the whole world. When we're looking at Satan's plan of Babylon, it can be quite foreboding, can't it? All things were made for God's pleasure. Everything was made for God. God's got a plan, and the plan is a wonderful plan. It's to redeem mankind, it's so man can live on earth forever in peace. So it's a good plan. We're looking at the bad side. You know, you have to face truth, don't you? If you've got, gangrene in your arm, you better know all about it before I say you've got to cut your arm off. I'll save your life, but it'll cost you. So, I don't apologise for what we're looking at Babylon, but we need to know God's got a plan, and all things were created for His pleasure. A wonderful plan of love, romance, family life. Okay, so don't lose that in looking at all these things. I had to research lots of, sites that I didn't like and find information that wasn't palatable to me. But we need truth, don't we? All right, a quote from Maurice Barratt. This is a man who started the Illuminati, or what Encyclopedia Britannica says. I don't believe he was a frontman, I believe. But this is what he said: our great strength in the order lies in its concealment. Let it never be in any place in its own name. It comes in lots of other names, but always covered by another name and another occupation. Of all the means I know to lead men, the most effectual is a concealed mystery. People love mystery. The best way to lead men is to give them a mystery. Go down the rabbit hole and follow Alice in Wonderland, follow the Relabic Road. Mystery. What do you watch on television? Don't you all like mysteries? Yeah. We like the mysterious because we're looking for who done it. Rev Green did it with a candlestick in the conservatory. I played Cluedo, I know who done it. The hankering of the mind is irresistible. Can you see these people know how to manipulate? These are very intelligent people. They know how to manipulate the mind, and study the Tavistock Centre because they control the whole world with these mind techniques. They know what happens. They knew what would happen when the Twin Towers came down. They knew the reaction that the American people would have. They already planned it. It's very, very clever. And that's what he said, and that was a couple of 100 years ago. The hankering of the mind is irresistible. So we've got an invisible government. You see, they don't want it in their own name. And they want to usher in the one world order and put the king in place. They want the king of the Jews. That's the title of the Antichrist, isn't it? King of the Jews. Not King of Israel, King of the Jews. And they have a plan, an elaborate plan, okay. Well, things don't just happen by chance, do they? Everything's carefully orchestrated. And the plan goes on, and it's detailed in every way. It has setbacks. God's plan has setbacks, It's a perfect plan, but he said you've rebelled and limited the Holy One of Israel. They don't limit God, but the plan has to alter. You fail, God will choose somebody else. So the plan goes on. So there's little setbacks. And it's the same with the devil. His plan gets set back, but it goes on slowly. God's watching everything that happens. Satan's only part of the great purposes of God. In the end, God will be glorified, vindicated in the end. We know that. So get your eyes on God, not the devil. But we need to be aware of Satan's plans and agendas. Paul told us to. Paul said he wasn't ignorant of his devices. The plan, the device, it's deception and undercover. Neither should we be. Do you know what Paul said? If you don't know the devil's plan for this planet, then Satan has an advantage of you. He's got that, that's what it says. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us. I am not ignorant of his devices. Lest Satan has a great advantage over Christians because they don't know what's happening. They believe what the preacher says. They believe because that's all they listen to. They don't read worldly books. Oh no, I just read all these faith preachers. They only read the hype. You need to read other books to see what's going on in the world. lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant, but the church are ignorant of what's happening. And he has an advantage of us. He can trick us as easy as he wants, because we don't know his devices. That's why I'm preaching this conference, so we're aware of his devices. Some history he didn't learn at school. 20th of July 1785, a courier was struck by lightning. He was a secret courier, but he got struck by lightning. The grace of God wanted us to know, although we did never know. He got struck by lightning. When they found him, he was carrying documents about the proposed French Revolution. And it's from the leader of the Illuminati, and at Weisbach, addressed to the Grand Master of the Orient in Paris, the Mason, the Grand Master Mason. All right, this man was raised in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, that's Germany. He was a professor of canon law and founded the Order of the Illuminati, May 1st, 1776, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica. And he called himself Brother Spartacus. That was his name. You know the Masons, it's brother, isn't it? Yeah. Like church, you know, brother so-and-so, brother so. When you go to the lodge, it's brother. Do you know that? You call him brother so-and-so. He called himself Brother Spartacus, that was his name. And Winston Churchill, who's an internationalist, not a good man as we think, he mentioned him. Looking back at the Russian Revolution, in 1920, this is what Winston Churchill, from the days of Spartacus, so he knew about him. The pals, you see, this is from the days of Spartacus to Karl Marx, and then his real name, Mordecai Levy. Moses Mordecai, he was a Jew, Karl Marx, Mordecai Levy, down to Trotsky, Russian, and so on. This world conspiracy, he knew all about it. All right, the full quote's in the book, let me go on. So, world leaders have always known about it. That's what Napoleon said. History is rewritten under each new regime or empire. Do you know that? Do you know every regime that takes over a new empire, they rewrite the history? What you learn at school is not true history, they rewrite it. And these people knew it. Napoleon Bonaparte said history is the version, not truth, the version of past events that people decide to agree upon. He said that's history. We think it's truth, don't we? Napoleon Bonaparte was not a bonehead. He was a very intelligent man. Did you know that? He wrote books, he wrote a whole manifesto about it. He was a very, very clever man. We don't underestimate him. That's what he said. Winston Churchill said history is written by the victors. Next slide, Jake. So, do you think they were making amusing comments saying that? History is written by the victors. So if you do, it shows you gross ignorance of how the world's governed. If you think they were just amusing remarks, clever quips, you know, oh, history's written by the victors, they were telling you something. Actually, what the occult have a phrase, hidden in plain view. That's one of the ways they do it. They put things in plain view, but you don't know what they mean. They make statements, and you think, oh yeah, and that's funny, and a comedian will quote it, and make fun of the politicians. They don't know it's the truth. They hide it in plain view. That's why we miss it. So what did the document contain for the French Revolution? Well, there were 7 aims for world domination. Do you want to know what they were? This was the aims. Put them up, Jay. The abolition. All ordered government, so they would control and put the stooges in. Abolition of all private property. You don't own much, you know, you only think you do. The inheritance. Patriotism, that's really fast going. The family. Well, they're destroying that now, aren't they, the family unit? The aim of the gay movement is not to have same-sex marriage, that's not the aim. It's to abolish the institute of marriage. So there's neither, that's what they want to do, get rid of the institution of marriage. That's just the first leg, don't major on that. I've got quotes from them. You know, Stonewall and all those. It's to abolish the institution of marriage so it doesn't exist at all. It doesn't matter who you cohabit with, whether it's a man or a woman. A doctrine in political philosophy, sometimes called ethics, holding, this is what it is, that the individual's actions should benefit, not the individual, but some kind of collective organisation. Sounds quite Christian, doesn't it? That your actions should benefit not only you, but the rest of the community. It sounds good. Collectivism in political theory depends on altruism. That's loving others as oneself. They've even quoted the Bible.
Yeah.
Loving, you see. There are many forms of collectivism in politics reality, such as tribalism, communism, socialism, and fascism. They're all forms because they say that the government is God. We do it for the common people. That's communism. It's, you know, you're not looking after yourself. We're all a community, communal living. Can you see the deception of it? Treat others as you treat yourself. It sounds good. The term is most often associated with totalitarian governments of the 20th century, but is uncommon in everyday language. You don't hear that word, do you? No. Collectivism. Because it covers them all, and that's what the one world system will be, without a doubt. It conveniently misses out democracy. Because democracy is everyone looking out for himself, all right. To me, the most deceptive of them all. Social Darwinism, elitism. Yeah. These people at the top are into this. The elite believe they're more advanced than anyone else. Hitler thought he was, that's why he's getting rid of the scum, the Jews. It's elitism, isn't it? Eugenics is elitism. Population control is elitism. Because who do you decide who to cut down? Who do you cull if you want to get the population down? It's not new. Plato wrote in his book, if you've ever read Plato's The Republic, refer to people as sheep. Just sheep. To be led. So the philosophy of men like Plato is still alive. The statue of Babylon doesn't go away, does it? The phoenix keeps rising from the ashes. Just morphs into another society or empire. But the principles stay the same. Babylon under the gold, the silver, the brass, the iron, the toes. It's still Babylon. So a different empire, different culture. The principles do not alter. It's the same, okay. Did you know that China was the experiment for the one world system? Totalitarian China was considered the model. Mao Zedong was put in by the capitalist. Who did he, Chiang Kai-shek was it that he defeated? We put him in. Just like we put communism in Russia. Did you know China's won more awards than any other nation from the UN? The UN. They implemented compulsory one-child family. They got recommended for that. Compulsory one child. After that, forced abortion, forced sterilisation. That's not freedom, is it? They harvest body parts from labour camps and sell them to the world. You've no idea. Johnny had a photo of somebody making fetus soup in a restaurant. Saw a photo of it, fetus soup. Because there's millions of abortions, what do they do? Well, they make lipstick, don't they, from fetuses and cosmetics. They use them for research, stem cells and all that. And they harvest them. Big business. I can't go into that, but you don't know what's going on. That was considered. You see, don't you understand, the elite, when they rule the world, certain nations will just be there to provide body parts so we can live forever. Do you understand? We'll breed them. They're just like, you breed animals and kill them, don't you? And eat them. Well, we're just another animal. Come on. Darwinism, we're just another animal, aren't we? So what's the difference?
There's a film called The Island.
Yeah.
And that goes into it. The Island.
Have you seen that film, The
Yes,
Island?
I have seen The Island, yeah. But,
watch it now in the light of all this.
Yeah.
Scary. Watch it, The Island.
Yeah.
I'm going to, at the last book.
They made one years ago, Silent Green, where there was killing off human beings for food.
They're telling us what they're going to do and we don't know. We think it's entertainment, we're stupid.
Charlton
We watch the film and say, oh yeah, and we think it's fantasy and entertainment. They're actually telling us, because they know how stupid we are. It's propaganda from Hollywood, it's not entertainment anymore. Do you know, years ago when we heard of before the revival in China, when we heard of all the things that were going on, Christians getting persecuted in China, we read it all. I could never understand why the US and the British government wouldn't condemn it. And because you know what the US said? We've sent our men over there and they have churches. People can go to the 3 self-churches, it's open, there's no persecution. I could never understand why they denied it when we had Wormersley and other men coming. They'd been to China and seen the persecuted church and been underground with them, come back and told us, and the US government and the British said, no, there's no persecution in China, they have churches, they're free to the public. I thought, why are they blind? Now I know they were part of it, they were part of the experiment, otherwise they'd condemn it. Well, here's what David Rockefeller says about China. What do you think about this? He's working tirelessly for the one world government. This is quoting David Rockefeller. Whatever the price of the Chinese Revolution, we're talking about millions of people being killed, aren't we? Whatever the price of it was obviously successful, not only in producing more efficient and dedicated administration, but also in fostering high morale and community of purpose. The social experiment in China, under Chairman Mao's leadership, therefore, is one of the most important and successful in human history. What do you think about that?
Oh, God. That
wasn't in public, that was, quote, recorded in a private meeting to business people and heads. Wow. That's what David Rockefeller said. Wow. It was a wonderful experiment, it worked, we controlled people. Eugenics, the controlling of population, the killing of them. Selective breeding, all eugenics. It's the elite have long viewed rising population as a threat to the dominance. You see, if people can revolt, can't they? 1 billion people say no, what can they do? And so they want to make the global population 500 million. It's written on the Georgia stones. Georgia Guidestone, it's there for everyone to see. It's not there's enough quotes from people. But it's been going on anyway, covertly. The depopulation programme has been covertly implemented between 1963 and 65. More than 400,000 Colombian women were sterilised in a programme funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. Often the women don't know. In Bolivia, a US-imposed population control programme administered by the Peace Corps sterilised Indian women without their knowledge or consent. Without the knowledge of the women or consent. They went in for flu jabs or checks, but they actually sterilised them. In 1967, the American Public Health Association and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists conducted a study and found that 54% of the teaching hospitals nationwide made sterilisation a requirement for winning approval for an abortion. See, it's clever, you see, you don't get approval unless you agree to sterilisation. The elite have practiced breeding amongst themselves for centuries, haven't they? They think to preserve intelligence, don't forget it's evolution, to preserve intelligence, love of power and above all ruthlessness, and are willing to kill. They're trained. The royal children are trained. They go to certain schools, so they separated them from the parents. So they lose all sense of loyalty to family, loyalty to the system. You're the elite. You have to think bigger than your family, bigger than your country. You're part of the world elite. That's how they think. They believe in the practice of eugenics on the public to control the population, make them more docile, control, stupid and compliant. They've been doing that. They've dumbed down the education. They put things in our water, fluoride, poison, rat poison. Used to kill rats with that. Fluoride in our water, it doesn't do any good for your teeth. It's a lie. But then if specialised people say it, the pharmaceutical companies say we've tested it and it's safe, we believe it. Stuff in our food, mercury in vaccinations. They use fetus in vaccinations. They use all animal stuff. Steve's been telling me they're now messing with our DNA with the drugs. They've been practicing a long time. The people who worked for Hitler, they went underground. I suppose you've heard about the rat lines. They were taken to Bolivia and Argentina, A great lot of them went to America. A great lot of the people who've been working on mind control, working on experiments, working on how to control populations, Council for Foreign Relations published a policy. They want to depopulate the world, including half the population of the USA. I mean, this is common knowledge. You can see it on the website. They've actually said they want to reduce the population. It's funded by Rockefeller Foundation, what else? And the Merrick, or the Merck, is that fund? Do you know anything about that? Well, it's linked to the Merck pharmaceutical company, would be, wouldn't it? The world's leading vaccination manufacturer. They're into eugenics. It says it's been proved that the Merck pharmaceutical company received major share of the Nazi flight capital, the funding that came from when the Nazis came over. World War II. G.W. Merritt was America's biological weapons director. There's a book, I quote it. It's revealed by Norman Covert, Army Public Relations Director at Fort Derrick in Fredland, Maryland. Multi-generational planning. The evolution, multi-generational. They plan, you see. And they believe that society is not something we can leave to the ordinary people. Can't leave it to chance. It might go any different way, so they've got to control it. Revelation of the method. I'm skipping over stuff. You've got the book. Revelation of the method. The elites tell us through the books and publications, films and news releases what they're doing. They tell us. If you hear something bad, you say, well, that's shocking. Hear it again. Shocking. Hear it again. Do you know if you hear it enough times, it becomes normal? They prepare us. They tell us on films about, you know, harvesting body parts and these things. Alien invasion, that's coming. That's another scam to frighten us. Just like terrorism is a load of nonsense. There's no threat from world terrorism. It's all instigators to pass laws to get us frightened. We've got to do this because of terrorism. I had my fingerprints taken when I got to Kenya now. Did you have your fingerprints taken?
Yeah.
To get to... Mad, isn't it, going to not Kenya, to Uganda?
Uganda.
No threat of terrorism. It's just these controls are coming in.
I'm coming back into this country now.
Yes. And they're revealing it to us. They call it revelation of the method. This is what they think. If you were too stupid to recognise it, that's your problem from their point of view. And it's a form of ritual mocking of the victim. Witchcraft, Satanism, they love to mock the victim. As they're cutting them up, as they're raping them, as they're doing all the atrocities, they love to mock them as they're doing it. It's part of the laughter and the glee of doing atrocities. Soldiers laughing as they're killing people, making fun.
So all this
That's Satanism. If you've got to kill your enemy to defend yourself, that's one thing. But, you know, the mocking and the laughing as you're doing atrocities, there's something satanic, isn't there, about that? That's not human, is it? Maybe they say if you was killing a chicken and laughing and gloating and mocking and goading it, you do it as quick as you can, don't you, to kill a chicken? Satanic. And that's what they do. They tell you what they're going to do, and they're mocking us. They're laughing.
I make a film of them.
They told us about the Twin Towers. That the falling of the Twin Towers was in Disney movies and all sorts years ago. It was all planned.
Yeah.
They mock us. They let us know what they're going to do and then do it. Modern films, I'll just go a little bit about them. This is how far we've come, how far have we come. Modern films, a lot of them have eugenics themes. I've got a long list in the book. And I've written a list of the modern politicians and bankers and scientists and industrialists who are openly eugenics. Bill Gates is a big one. He says the world population should be controlled by vaccinations. He's put billions of dollars into spermicidal wheat. Send wheat aid to the poor countries. He's doing a great job, everyone thinks, sending aid. But it's spermicidal wheat. It make men impotent. So we have control of the population. War is another way to keep population down. They often instigate wars just to depopulate countries. They're very ruthless.
Put something in the food now because the sperm count, they've said the sperm count's gone down by about a third in European men.
Yeah. Did you hear that, what Steve said? Because that's his job. The sperm count in men in Europe has gone down by 1/3. Why is that with our modern living? It's because they put stuff in the food. They're controlling the population subtly. God said be fruitful and multiply, didn't he? He's not rescinded that. But the penny will drop with what's happening, you know, with the things. The people have come into our country and they've taken over our jobs and all that. We've moaned and groaned and now we've accepted it. But the tide will turn. Because Germany, Europe's the pattern, don't forget. And what happened in Germany? People didn't hate the Jews in Germany. It was the propaganda from the Tavistock Centre. They programmed them. People didn't hate Jews. Germans didn't hate Jews. There's no history of that. Arabs don't hate Jews. Do you know before 1948, before the Rothschilds took back Israel in the flesh, Arabs and Jews lived together for hundreds of years, side by side, no problem. It was only after 1948 the Arabs and the Jews started the conflict. Where was it before they lived together? There's no problem. It's instigated. And soon people, few but the media, will demand the rights. We've lost all our rights, but we'll demand them again. People will swing again as they did in Germany. Do you know, in Germany they believe that some people had no right to live and should be annihilated? Dirty Jews. They spit at them in the street. Ordinary housewife people spit at them in the street because what they were said on the news. They have no right to live. The whole country turned against them. That'll happen again. They believe they were animals. But do you know what? When the empire was at the fullest, were we any different?
Yeah.
Wogs, dirty Arabs. We despised the Chinese. We despised the Arabs. We thought they were animals, didn't we? Dirty wogs. We call them names that now I get to prison if I said them. I'm just quoting what people said. I'm not saying it about them, but that's what we said. We call them names. We went to India and just slaughtered them. Just got a whole village, got them to work on the railways. Didn't feed them. They died. It's all right, bury them. Let's get another village. They weren't fitting. They're on it. There's millions of them. They're scum. That's how we thought of them. The British Empire, the proud British Empire. So don't think it can't happen again. We'll get so sick of the immigration and all that the right will rise up and we'll be glad when the one world order start exterminating people. The Bride of Christ will be number one on the list, I think. We're the fly the we're the salt that's keeping the savour. But the voices are already rising.
Yeah.
We're now talking about transhumanism. Because of DNA we can make ourselves half human, half whatever. And listen to what this man says. Fukuyama is a philosopher, people know about him. First victims of transhumanism might be equality. We're going to have equality, 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 equality. It'll turn. It'll turn. If we start transforming ourselves into something superior, becoming gods, that's where we get into the conference, what right will these enhanced creatures claim and what rights will they possess when compared to those left behind? If you won't move with it, you'll get destroyed. If some move ahead cannot afford not to follow. These questions are troubling enough within rich developed societies and implications for citizens of the world's poorest countries, for whom biotechnology marvels likely will be out of reach, and the threat to the idea of equality becomes even more menacing. Voices are beginning to say, you know, what's going to happen? People will agree to the culling of other people if it saves their life. And they'll do anything to save his skin. It's amazing. Women have ate their own babies rather than die, haven't they? In famine. In Israel they did. God's people in Israel ate their own children rather than die. So it's amazing what you'll do. And if somebody else is doing it, it's not so bad. If you're the only one, you tell a cannibal. But if everyone in your street, first eating dogs, then cats and then something else, and the fear of death is amazing, you know. And it's been proved that people would even eat their own young. God's people in Israel did it, in the sieges. You'll do anything to save your skin. You'll vote anyone in. You'll do anything. People will do it. They're not. We've got to get ourselves strong and say, no, I'll die first. I'm not eating my child. No, I'll die. Let me die, let the child live, or let's die together. But I'm not going to eat my child. We've got to get ourselves strong mentally. Because these people are psychopathic. The people at the top are psychopathic. They're megalomaniacs. They're possessed by Satan, who's psychopathic. I've read some reports, psychiatrist reports on these people, and it says they're psychopathic. They're well established, the elite, and the most capable of rising to the top of a system based on money are psychopathic. That's what a report said. The well established, the elite, and those most capable of getting to the top in this world on the system based on money are psychopathic. That's where it leads you. That includes all leaders of power, business, politics. Psychopaths have no conscience, lust for power and control, and capable of anything. Dictators are usually megalomaniacs, aren't they? Because it's the very character of Satan. Look at the definition. Megalomania, a psychopathological disorder characterised by delusional fantasies of power, relevance of omnipotence. Megalomania is characterised by an inflated sense of self-esteem. Oh my, that's in the church, isn't it? You've got a poor self-esteem, that's your problem, Stuart. You've got a poor self-esteem, you need to think better of yourself.
Dear God.
Absolute occult teaching.
Dear Lord.
Deny self, not exalt it. An inflated sense of self-esteem and overestimation by persons of their power and beliefs.
Urologists.
Well, look at the people. Surely these were megalomaniacs. Adolf Hitler, Napoleon, Benito Mussolini, Alexander the Great, Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, Idi Amin, Castro, so on. They believe that the means justify the ends. They believe that if they cull the population to 500 million, that gets rid of 6.5 billion people on the planet, then the resources will spread through the world and everything will be peaceful. We'll have a one world army. They actually believe that they'll usher in utopia. They believe it passionately. Read the elders of Protocols of the Elders of Zion. They believe that once they get their king in place and everyone's subservient, thank you, Pharaoh, for saving our life. They believe they'll have a peaceful coexistence, the brotherhood of all people. They actually believe it, that they'll do it. Because Satan wants to counterfeit the new heaven and the new earth. He wants to be like God, don't forget. And bring world peace that will worship him. He wants worship, that's his ultimate aim. Mystery religions and the occult. It's very hard for Christians who've been indoctrinated by the denominational dogma and propaganda of the media to imagine that the elite in our society would be like that, would form a pagan religion based on the mystery schools of Sumer and Babylon. But they do. Princess Diane started to divulge the satanic rituals at Balmoral and other places. That's another reason they got rid of her. She started to talk, to people about what went on. Because she had to be initiated into the royal family who were Satanists, really. I might edit this out of the tape, but it's true. They put on a wonderful face and make speeches at Christmas. Head of the church never speaks out against abortion, homosexuality, never says anything, goes along with it, instigates it. Don't be deceived. It's hard to imagine, I know that. But royalty have always had their astrologers, the mystics, the occult, haven't they? Kings throughout history, they've always had. The Rajas had the Brahmins, the holy men, and we've always had Earl Mountbatten. He had the spiritualists. Went to spiritualists, he indoctrinated, he introduced Prince Charles. Prince Charles got in touch with him after he died, did you know that? With his uncle Lord Mountbatten, yeah. With spiritualism, he was into spiritualism. The royalty are always into it, don't be deceived. Do you think they're going to tell you what they're into when they control all the world? When somebody's got so much power, they're a trillionaire like the Queen, do you think she's going to tell you that they're controlling you. We're just the cannon fodder, the bugs. Equally important is religion to control the masses. To the end that they create esoterics, hidden, visible religions for the masses, while embedded in those religions, hidden meanings that only the enlightened or illumined are able to understand. If you don't understand that, it's simple. Consequently, all the ancient symbols used thousands of years ago in pagan religions, they put openly, they're hidden in plain view. So like the Bibles, most Bibles are printed now by the world or the occult. They're not printed by Christians anymore. Nelson publishers and those that do them. And we've got all the New Age Bibles, so many versions, most of them are New Age Bibles. They're working us towards a one world Bible that all religions will accept. That's the aim of all the versions of the Bible. Slowly pollute and dilute it. So there's a church. There's the Star of David, so-called, on the church. That's not a Jewish church, that's the Church of England, so why would they have that? Because it's the Rothschilds and it's an occult sign.
Mark of the beast.
And the three circles like the clover, that's occult. They're all over the churches, they put occult signs. They're showing you in plain view who's controlling the religion. There's another church. There's the Jesuit sign in the middle with the sun. See the rays coming out of it? The horns and the rays coming out of it. All symbolic. Babylonian, that's on the church. Okay, Jay. Oh, these are some of the things that I put. That's in London. I don't think that's an angel, do you? These are all on churches in London. Gargoyles. New King James Version, that's an occult sign. Triscally, that's it. Check it up, check that sign. There's another one, New King James Bible. They're putting the signs on the Bibles, letting you know. That's an occult sign. Okay, we're finished there.